can't help what it is you fall in love with. I write books that have to do with social justice. I joke often that I wish I wrote books about cats. I wish I loved things that were easier to deal with. All the people now that have become successful on the other side of things, we don't always talk about what they had to swim through to get there.
The reason we don't value it there is because I don't think we value it in the everyday persons.
Right.
We don't value it enough.
Tyler Merritt is a best-selling author and activist with a new book out called This Changes Everything. This is funny, heartfelt.
I see humor in everything and oftentimes in the worst situations.
I'm amazed at how Black women can see the value in other Black women for the things that they do with what might be as mothering. Okay?
It takes a certain level of intention and reprogramming both yourself and the environment. There's a reason that right now we say stay dangerous. Nipsey said it used to be stay safe, now it's stay dangerous.
Yeah. We are not seeing enough examples of people that look like us who are choosing to be vulnerable in the midst of a world that does not want us to be. That's what I feel like it means to be us in a place where we were never meant to be great in the United States. We never were. That was never the plan. The podcast starts with Diddy.
We're getting back to Diddy, no Diddy. You know what I mean?
Never in a million years. But I think no Diddy would be a real thing.
It's like a meme coin. It's like one of those things you just don't see coming. You know what I mean? I don't like how swiftly it was able to infiltrate the culture and literally dethrone the homo, which I wish was actually dethroned so much earlier. Sure. Because I have my own issues with that in general.
Of course.
It just infiltrated so quickly and so easily. And I think we have now put ourselves in a position where we not only have to contend with what we know to be true, which is this assault on Cassie, but also these alleged incidents across a large time span,
right,
which are going to possibly lead us to losing someone,
right,
who has been a very integral fixture to the culture, both musically and just literally culturally. I mean, you're talking Sean John, you're talking even his time before he became Diddy, his legend as an A&R, is something that people imitated in terms of what we think of when we think of grind culture in America. But you think of Diddy.
I can get rid of Sean John.
Mm-hmm.
I can go, all right, he was so significant and this, that, the other. But I, even as a hip hop head, I tend to forget how much music Diddy put out the world, and how influential, how many bangers he has, which I think brings the question, where are we going to land as, especially culture, in the culture, where are we going to land with Diddy? Because this is where I am currently right now. Even with everything that's going on, I right now feel like, I can't listen to a Diddy song if it's just Diddy. Like, I can't listen to Bad Boy for Life right now. I put on doom, 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 doom. I'm like, I can't do it. But More Money, More Problems comes on, and I'm like, there's a little bit of a pat. He's only a third of this situation. You know what I'm saying? And in my mind, I end up making almost a pass for it. Or like, what do we do with Mace? You know what I'm saying? Cameron.
I mean, just cause then also, so there's a book I love. I love this book. It's called Monster, A Fan's Dilemma by Claire Dieter. And she talks about how the American culture and just culture in general got to a point where it's like, because we have so much access to the artists,
sure,
we now have a larger attachment to the artist's decisions, because we derive some of our own self-meaning through our fandom.
100%.
So basically, like, for instance, the reason that the Beehive exists is because a part of my actual identity, my social identity, is tied to Beyonce's success and accumulation of power, or an accumulation of wealth and accumulation of culture.
Yeah.
Right. And now we have to make these choices because it's also because Diddy, I'm saying if he was right, because Diddy occupies this space for me.
Sure.
Where I am like a DDI, right? Or like a disciple of Brother Love.
Right.
Was who he was right before this.
Not too long.
Talk about seeing the writing on the wall.
Sure.
And trying to get in front of something.
Right.
But like, if I am attached to that, if I do not condemn that, then that means there is therefore something wrong with me because I support it. We already know that there's also something wrong with me anyway because we have so many uncles.
Sure.
That's, so many uncles, so many aunties, so many babysitters, etc., who have been exhibiting similar behaviors that we haven't called out.
Right.
And so we must take a stance here. What does that stance look like? You know what I mean? When you're talking about somebody who is such a integral part of the culture for so long, what do you do with that?
And not just on the sidelines. There were blocks.
Oh yeah.
Of things. Even having a show called Making the Band, knowing in reality, it was my influence. I am so influential now that I can take this group of people and make them household names.
Wild.
And now we are here. But I think the question is, where does that leave us? Like, what do we do with it? And man, I think there is enough creativity. I think there is enough history in hip hop that I can set Diddy aside, especially as an MC, and be okay. I can't.
Yeah, I could set him aside as an MC, definitely. I think the Diddy adjacent things.
Yeah.
Like you said, My Money, No Problems.
Just be.
I mean, so that's tough. I think also though, what does that do to, cause he's also involved politically.
That's right.
You know what I mean? He's also involved politically. He was involved with voting. He was trying to be involved. He had some schools, et cetera, which is almost like a la Bill Cosby.
Sure.
This idea that the black entertainer that decides to play in that is somehow always doomed. Because you even have the alleged case against Jay-Z that comes, and it seemed like everybody was begging for.
Everybody was begging for it. But how Jigga handled that?
Listen,
was on some.
Let me tell you what I want to say about that.
Yeah.
Because the machine didn't work properly. I'm gonna throw a wrench in a. We were heading in the direction, but I'm about to throw a pivot.
Let's go.
Because it didn't work as it was supposed to. There are two things that didn't work as it was supposed to. Kendrick wasn't supposed to win.
Right.
All right. But then on top of that, Hove beats what it seemed like the culture wanted. Because that didn't work out, we immediately turned our attention to hating on the life choices of Travis Hunter. Because that didn't work out, we started meddling in the relationship. This happened at the same time.
Okay, yeah.
We'll all be looking at the Jay-Z.
Sure.
Jay-Z came out swiftly.
Right.
You know what I mean? Decisive. Right. And as someone who has, that's a cultural moment. We really need to talk about it because this is almost the first time that the accumulation of power actually worked for a black man.
Right. And we didn't really talk about it.
Because that wasn't the plan. It was all the pieces were set for his fall.
But the way you shut it down, why do you think his shutting down worked so well?
I mean, I don't want to. Sometimes what is it? Never contribute to conspiracy. What can be easily explained with ignorance. He literally just took his time. He utilized his resources. They conspired together and created a statement. Just like every other powerful man that beats anything does.
But there was something about his statement that had a little bit of street in it.
Yeah, yes.
You know what I'm saying?
He did. It was street, it was power, and it was culture. He did something. So my friend calls me right after his message comes out and he basically says, do you think he did it? Right. And I was like, well, it doesn't matter because where we are right now. Well, it does matter, right? Obviously, but I'm saying because of where we are right now, everybody wants his downfall. I said, but can you imagine living in a world where a black man can say, I'm from Marcy Projects and we don't play like that.
Yeah.
is to snatch back. It's almost like what I was saying offline when we're talking about like what does the people who go and take woke back, what do they look like?
Right.
Because we know the realities of living in Marcy, just like we know the realities of living in any hood. Like these are some, for all intents and purposes, diabolical people who know that the dream is a lie. And so we can do the same things that they do, but we just get in trouble for it.
Yeah.
So we're going to break the rules and we're going to deal with the fact that we get in trouble with it. And there are all kinds of other things. We're selling drugs to our people, et cetera, et cetera. But to dream of a world where a black man can say, I'm from New Orleans, I'm from the Ninth Ward of New Orleans.
Yeah.
And we don't touch kids.
Right. And you were like, okay.
So that is, I was like, wouldn't it, I understand why you called me because we're supposed to commiserate about this the supposed downfall of the next person because he took pictures with the other guy, which makes it, obviously they're best friends, right? Based on our perspective. But would it not be wonderful to live in a world where you would hear that statement and make it to be true?
Right.
No, we don't do that where I'm from.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also an allusion to a beautiful time where there were men of honor like that in the streets.
Yeah, 100%. I also love the fact that he doubled down and said, if you're going to come after me for real. Like, don't play around and act like you're just coming after some money.
What he said, why not do I forgot which case.
Yeah.
He was like, why not make it that case?
Why not make it this way to where you bring everybody to come against me? Therefore, it forces you to dig through everything I have to prove your point, which you will find nothing.
That is, listen, that is, come on now. So I was like, of course we turned to Travis Hunter. Because we would have let that, we've let that go before. Assuming she is what they are trying to say, air quotes for listeners.
Right.
We've seen that story before.
Right.
That's the air quotes again, supposed reason that we're even talking to them in the first place.
Yeah.
So we've let this happen before. But it was a concerted effort. There was content created around it, et cetera, destroying again to this point that another point we had offline, but destroying this idea of a young black brother who's exceptionally good at football, who doesn't club, who doesn't party, all he wants to do is stream and try and figure this self thing out.
Right.
And we rolled him to the point where he stopped streaming and he got off the platform. And so I guess I will open space for this too. Just that conversation about what it means to you to have been able to maintain your love for theater, maintain your love for the arts in a culture that doesn't readily receive that, both your own and the one that you enter when you make a decision like that. What does that mean to you?
To me, I'll tell you, man, you can't help what it is you fall in love with.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I even to this day, the fact that I write books that have to do with social justice, I joke often that I wish I wrote books about cats. Like, that would just be easier. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wish I loved things that were easier to deal with, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't ideal for me to fall in love with musical theater in high school as a black man in a school that was super gang affiliated, you know, until my senior year when I went to performing arts school. But those 9th, 10th, 11th grade, man, being literally at a school where the biggest game of Donna Street Crips, we were on Donna Street, you know? And I chose to go, no, I don't want to play sports, which is respectable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to join a gang because my mom, I'm much more afraid of my mother than I am any gang member. Yeah. I cannot join your gang because at some point I have to go home. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Word.
All of those things, but then to fall in love with musical theater, something that I couldn't afford. Like, I had never seen a Broadway show. I could only afford listening to the CDs and cassette tapes that I could buy that had these musicals on it, which I had to discover people like Andre DeShields, who starred in Ain't Misbehavin'. And at the time, Billy Porter was just starting to blow up. In the time that I was starting to discover theater, that's all I had is black. And this was mostly gay men within the community, and I wasn't. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to say it was scary, but man, people poke jokes at me all the time. Yeah. But you know what? It was my love I love that. And I was going to continue to move through that sludge because of the love that I had discovered, and it ended up carrying me to the other side. Well, you don't know what the other side looks like when you're in the midst of it. Yeah. That's what we were talking about. For all the people now that have become successful on the other side of things, we don't always talk about what they had to swim through to get there.
Yeah. I think about, myself and my love for reading and the assumption that, I had homework or a paper due. Right. And I'm like, no, I just want to read. Like, I just enjoy reading. And I don't necessarily have to conform. I wonder, why do you think we feel that need to conform? Because one of the things you said, like, you could have did sports, right?
Yeah.
Cause that was respectable. And I was watching somebody talk about the hood valuing talent in reference to, like you saying, talking about those Crips.
I talked about it in my first.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why do you think that exists in the first place? Both this idea of protecting talent, but also this idea of circumscribing folks to certain caricatures, right?
Sure.
Or that have been also tied to success, right? So, like, we've had two people come from here that went to the NFL.
Yeah.
And so we value football here. And so if you don't want to join the Rolling 60s, then it's okay because you play football and you're the running back, and that allows us to talk badly about our rivals anyway.
Right.
Because you're winning. We'll let that ride, but why don't we make that same space for the theater kid, with the other end of that being the possible same thing?
My answer is 100% loaded because I wrote about it in my first book. This is easy thought for me. Mm-hmm. When you come out of a neighborhood, you are automatically can get a check on you if you were talented in especially sports and oftentimes music. Mm-hmm. We will give you a pass, but we have an unspoken agreement that we are giving you a pass and we are letting you through because you are going to represent the place in which you came from. And if you represent the place in which you came from, it means that I too also win.
Is that okay for you? Is that an okay exchange?
I think that it all ties into, racism, but I do think that there is something to be said of, again, in my first book, and I Take My Coffee Black, I talk about how I learned to rap. So to help me stay out of gangs, because I recognize that my ability to use words became a weapon for me to where gang folks were like, no, but have you heard him? He got bars, or have you heard him flow though? And I'd be in 6th grade over there talking about, I'm Tyler T, that's who I be. And on the MIC, they were like, I do it. It's kind of dope. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And really for me, I'm being like, cool, that keeps me out of the game. Now, music, sports, and military in some way.
Yeah.
Black folks, especially from communities that are especially hidden with gangs and this, that, and the other, they can understand that. And because it's understandable and you can comprehend that is where you can go, all right, man, go and do that thing. What we typically don't understand, and I was guilty to it. I didn't realize with theater that you could be in a play. Those words were written from a play that somebody actually wrote. Then you were memorizing those words. You were acting. And the people that I was seeing on TV shows like Different Strokes and Silver Spoons, all that was actual acting. Like, it was a job. It was a gig. It was a thing. I didn't understand that, bro. Yeah. You feel me? Yeah. So when I'm in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, I'm not thinking about, hey, why don't you memorize some lines, read some acting books, and learn about Stanislavski so you can go and represent Las Vegas one day? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't comprehend it. It wasn't something that I understood that way. I didn't understand dance, like tap. Like that you could take tap and go, you can get a scholarship for dances. I didn't realize you could. I lettered in theater. I got my Letterman jacket in that.
Yeah. What does the little thing look like? Is it like
it's a drama. It's a little drama too. The drama facing.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Right. But this is what I'm saying though. I didn't realize that was a thing. I could get a scholarship for. You think the hood was going to respect that?
Yeah.
No, they're looking at things they can understand. They're looking and going, what I do know is if you go into the NBA, you got cash.
Yeah.
Which I'm about to switch it back to a conversation real quick.
Mm-hmm.
You know what we don't ever do? We don't do enough of, man. And it's because it's not interesting and it's not good clickbait for us mentally, is we will talk about people who fall or who build something and then crumble down. But the people that are just out there staying steady with their nose cleans, that are doing right and building things, we really don't want to give them the energy and the credit that they actually deserve. I'm going to use only one example, and it's been used a million times, but LeBron James. LeBron James has been a millionaire since he was 18, bro. Give me, a young black man, $20 million before I graduate high school. Yeah. And I will tell you right now, I'm going to have more than one lady all my life. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Bron, I'm saying all this to say, not only did Bron stay married, he built schools. He is a perfect example of somebody who went back home and said, you all built me up and I came back to represent who you are. You're going to build a school where you were at. And now he's existing at 40 years old, still playing with this child. And I don't want to say we're not hoping he will succeed, but we don't want to take the time to acknowledge what an accomplishment this continues to be in the example that it's setting.
Who's not taking the time? Do you feel like it's all of us?
I think all of us. Yeah, I think there are pockets of people that want to. If you're a Bron fan, I'm just using LeBron. I was
going to say, I think it's like what I was saying about that book. There are pockets of people who derive their identity from the fact that LeBron has done that. And they'll say it. But the reason I ask that, because I feel like it's all of us. I think it is all of us.
That are recognizing that?
That aren't.
That aren't. That is.
I think just those fans who have their identity tied to, Bron are doing that. Like those folks who are like, I've always known that, I've always, right? But the whole of us are not. We don't do that for him and we don't do it for Steph Curry. In fact, there's a ton of ESPN, all of the different sport networks. I bet you could put together at least 45 minutes of content about other players talking about how other players don't like Steph because his nose is so
bro.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm saying, but let him fall.
Oh my God.
You know what I'm saying? Let him fall in the interest that we will suddenly have, or let LeBron show up on a Diddy list or whatever. Then suddenly we have a million things to say, but we don't have a million things to say about the things that this individual, and when I say this, I mean, apply it to anybody who has walked through and become something that we shouldn't have been. All the energy is telling us that we're going to be something else. The simple fact is, LeBron shouldn't have made it as an 18-year-old multimillionaire.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have.
But the story goes the other way.
The stories go the other way. No one is surprised with
There's such a list of folks who, because at the time, folks was going to the league at 18.
Man.
There's only, really two success stories. It's Kobe and them. I mean, you got a few that might have did a little, because for instance, I didn't know Kendrick Perkins went into the league at 18.
Yeah.
But he didn't live out the life.
Yeah.
These other two did. And I think there's something, because the reason we don't value it there is because I don't think we value it in the everyday persons.
Right.
We don't value it enough. I have this thing about like the reason I ask strange questions like, why do you own so many vests?
Sure.
Is I believe in the surety of there being a story on the other side of it. It's not cool.
We need to tell the listeners a very specific
about the best thing. Okay. Yes, go ahead. You got it.
Our
you
visual producer here, Dominic, he who is running all the video, all the sound, everything, he wears vests. And it's too.
And I noticed it.
Well, you noticed that he wears multiple vests. And you asked him why he wears multiple vests, and which he had a very specific answer that was loaded, and we were all like, damn. Which, the normal, revealing the normal, pursuing the normal, asking questions when things aren't off the rails makes a difference.
We are extraordinary in our regularity. is one of my favorite quotes from some random person. It's like, I am extraordinary in my regularity. His allusion was to this fact that, you know, like I am basically like always perpetually authentic.
Sure.
But what I'm getting at in putting that forth is that I notice if you have someone who comes in every day, he wears a very particular shoe, and I notice it, I'm wondering why, only to find out that he's run like the first Black owned mechanic shop in so-and-so, and he wears those particular shoes because in a battle for the ownership of his lease, he ended up having to stand his ground. You know, right there. And so I brought that up and the vesting up to say there are people in our communities who have walked those same walks as like a LeBron and a Steph, and we don't value it there. And I mean this both. I'm talking primarily, oftentimes, to Black folks with the reality and understanding that I'm talking to all folks.
Right.
Bob Rixey.
Right.
I don't think we value that enough in general as Americans to give him that, but we most certainly value the fall.
Right. So the regularity, the consistency, I would even argue to say, this is probably not the best example, but I would say the C student, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. We don't value the C student in the way that we should. We think the A student's a little weird, right? And we think the F student we expect, or that's interesting.
Yeah.
But that C student who was like, I have all the potential in the world to do anything in the world, and I'm keeping my nose clean and just watch me shine, watch what I build, watch what I stack. I think you're completely right. Especially with Black folks, we tend to, I don't want to say not pay attention to it, but we tend to just bypass it as,
like you said, it's just not, it's a level of understanding and also a level of value and where it's placed. Cause I was talking to, when we touched this idea, I'm going to use it to expound on the idea, but that for most men, and again, specifically Black men, our masculinity is outside of us.
Yeah.
Right. And so it is the clothing, it is the jewelry, it is the goals, it is the bandana, it is the hat, it is the jersey, it is outside of us, it is posturing, right? And a sizable amount of that, to me, is tied to attracting a mate and almost peacocking. Sure. It is also tied to the fact that we have not defined masculinity to the point where it can hold space for the expansiveness that it is by only existing, by just the sheer the fact that men exist should have space for the expansiveness. Anything that a man can show up with. Sure. You know what I mean? But it doesn't. It only seems to have space for the agreed upon armament that we can put on. Right. And so when you see the theater kids show up, or you see the high schooler who's been dating the same girl since middle school. Right. Or, you know what I mean? You don't have a value system for it. And so you don't protect it. And it's not something that is a necessity.
And I think, especially with Black men, it becomes easy to make fun of. It becomes easy to target, to bully, to talk down to, because we do that to things that we don't understand. Which, man, you got to give credit to Black women. I could just stop there. I could just say, you got to credit to Black women.
First of all,
period. But you got to give credit to Black women, and that, of course, scientifically, women mature faster than men do.
5 or 10 years.
Right. But I do think that this thing that we're talking about here, is a little bit different amongst Black women. Very specifically. Meaning, I'm amazed at how Black women can see the value in other Black women for the things that they do with what might be, forgive me for saying, I'm using this for lack of a better word.
I like where you're going, because it's got me thinking about something else. Though.
This is, for lack of a better word, but for something is simple, for lack of a better word, as mothering. Okay. Black women can see the value in that on every single level of what being a mother means. And they see the importance of being a mother the same way they might see as being a teacher at the doctorate level, or the person who started as a bake and climbed the ladder. My mother is a perfectly good example of that. And I talk about her often in all of my books. But when I see other Black women talk about who they are in the world, I feel like there is a panel there, the Black man, we're missing a little bit of.
Yeah. Well, I think, so I was going to ask you this, and I have my own thoughts on that.
Sure.
So why do you think they have that? Is that because they are, so, there are some folks that think that Black folks can't love Black folks because there's not like an agreed upon villain anymore, that racism's gotten so like sanitized, and a certain number of us have gotten so many positions that we just don't have the same needs.
Sure.
Right. And because of that, that's why we can't unify, knowing full well that there was never like this sheer like super unification. There was actually like, coalition building, et cetera, et cetera. But that is one of the things that we're saying. Is it because we also agree that the only people who still have that existence is the Black woman, because they are at the bottom of the totem pole, like the furthest, like at least we have the patriarchy to buy into.
Sure.
There's not even that, right? Like, so is it because of that positioning? Or do you think it's something else? Because when you talk about your mom, you said that you believe that anyone who meets her will be immediately changed. Mm-hmm. Is it something else there? Or is it because of their status or perceived status as the very bottom?
I think sometimes in life, bro, it's important that we as human beings just go, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is that Black women have that continue to make them as resilient, as brilliant, as fiery, as, I'll use the word again, resilient as they are. I don't think if we could box that up or put it into some chemical thing and sell it, we'd all be zillionaires. Mm-hmm. I just don't know, man. And I think, sure, we could sit around and let me just say this. I'm not the one to answer that question because I don't know. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm sure any Black woman can come and sit down and go, here's the reason why. Mm-hmm. But I ain't the one. All I can do is sit back. I am grown up enough to look at a scenario and go, this is a magic I don't understand. Mm. And I'm just going to deal with that. I'm going to accept that and just thank God every single day that it is there. And that I'm able to take some of the brushes of that magic and allow that to create me into who I am. Yeah,
yeah. That's heavy. That's heavy. Because I was thinking, as you're saying, I'm thinking like, Nikki Giovanni, when we lose like an ancestor like that, you get to see all these clips, right? Because we're in the social media age. Right. One of them, she was saying, I told them, if they're worried about the alien invasion, if they know where the aliens are, they just need to do one thing, send a Black woman up there, and they're going to take care of those aliens so good to the point where the alien is going to be like, well, I know we were supposed to build a highway through, like, what was that? Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. We were supposed to build a throughway through Earth, but those grits I had in New Orleans got me thinking, and I think we'll push it. We'll push it next week, right, brothers? Right. Yeah. And I think we're having a good conversation. I was like, I could make it spicy and be like, well, what about the things they do to uphold the patriarchy, right? But even to try to do that, to play, I saw something cool. Got dudes like God's advocate because the devil doesn't need any more friends.
Right.
Right. Do that work of saying, well, what about the ways that they uphold and uplift the patriarchy is to still have to give reverence to the position that they hold within Black culture. Yeah. To sway, because if this idea, there's this huge push of we need more masculine energy as, like that's what's wrong. That's why America is not great again yet, because we gotta have masculine energy and we need more masculine energy. To think of masculine energy as this thing that is all powerful and has this ability to write things is to also have to still hold space for the fact that they have risen they have like raised these black men
Yeah.
who we do know probably by themselves most oftentimes
Yeah.
to even exude that level that you think that you want of masculine energy. And so even at that level, or like if that's the angle you want to take, we still have to pay reverence to, again, this possible thing. That it's just the magic we just don't know.
Let me tell you, let's talk about masculine energy for a minute. I'm the wrong energy to talk about masculine energy. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I consider myself as masculine as the next dude, but the best people in my life historically have had a major lack of masculinity. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
When I think about the people that I would depend on to change, reconstruct, and really make a difference in this world that we walk in, I do not sit here and think, what it needs is
masculine energy. I think, and I was going to ask you this, but I'm thinking about myself here, whether or not the absence of masculine energy meant that these people that you do think about aren't males. Because I think that I've been trying to think of like, how do we redefine masculinity in general?
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like? And I think one of the prerequisites to this rebuilding and or reimagining is vulnerability. You know what I mean? And I know everything about masculinity that we perpetuate as strength, resilience, etc. And even like when you think about, because this was something I was thinking about, when you think about the things that people love about black women, it's always resilience, etc. But they're even magnificent in their softness, right? So then when you try to look at the men who might occupy that space, for me, they had a certain level of vulnerability that I attribute to masculinity because they displayed it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so like, when I'm thinking about how I want to show up for myself, right? Because one of the things I do in like my daily like walk through meditations is say I want to be the best person for myself and others. And I think of that in when you put it parallel to masculine energy, the type of masculine energy I want to exude would be vulnerability to the point where I allow space for men to explore themselves. If we had to talk about it. So now we have to talk about what the powers that be are perpetuating this masculine energy. I absolutely think it is all about aggression. Take. Don't give anything. If you are building something, it's because of its monetary value. It's a certain brand of masculine energy. And it's almost like what I said offline about politics. You hear this push about like, I'm not going to like stop being friends with you because of how you voted, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, I don't know. I like to think that there were elections that were like that, but I think that these last couple of ones have been so pivotal that I might not need to be your friend on some of the stances that you've taken, because I have people I love who that affects, and you know that, right? As someone who I ventured forth in that, and you still felt comfortable saying those things to me. So it's like a double-edged sword when you're talking about how masculine energy shows up, or just how I show up as an American in general.
Gosh, man. Let me tell you what I love about this podcast. Let me tell you what I love about this community is that I'm sitting here with you thinking there are a million directions we could take all this. Yes. And it's because this isn't necessarily a Q&A format. It's just a discussion of who we are, what we think, and how we walk in the world. I don't think there's enough of this.
Oh yeah.
Especially with us in the world. But I want to dive into vulnerability for a couple of reasons. One, in all of my books, especially in The Changes Everything, I know that you're still going through it, but you're in it enough to see that vulnerability is something that is a part of what it is I do in the world. And when you write something and you publish it, and that's forever existing in the world, and it's just there, you can't take that back. In my first book, I Take My Coffee Black, a big chunk of it is me talking about how horrible I was with women. And I had to pay the price of that from people that had read it, and it was published, and I put it out there. And there was a lot of discussion people would talk about this. They were like, I loved that Take My Copy Black. About 3/4 of the way through, it was hard for me to figure out who the antagonist or protagonist of the story was. Couldn't figure out if I liked you or not. You know? And they were like, I had to go through the entirety of the book to realize not only do I like him, but I appreciate the fact that he was honest and he was vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right? But this changes everything. We're talking about health very specifically, but I'm very aware that my ability to talk about my own personal health struggle 100% is going to affect the way that people walk through their own health from here on out. And even on this book tour that I've been on, I've been seeing it every single day. I got a message yesterday where someone just simply said, I'm going to go to my doctor tomorrow. And I thought, if that was the only thing that came from anything that I ever wrote before, is this gentleman saying, I'm going to go to my doctor tomorrow.
Yeah.
Then that vulnerability paid off. And that's something that I think, especially as Black men, we not only need to begin to be more vulnerable, we need to understand that not only is it okay, but I think it is something that needs to become mandatory to who we are. Because I do think that vulnerability is going to be one of the keys to changing the world directly.
Do you think that there has been space provided for that yet? Meaning, so Bell Hooks talks about, I'm going to butcher this quote. So
sure,
hopefully they fix it, but it's right. But essentially she says, everyone is telling the man to talk, share your feelings. And if the men say tomorrow at 2 p.m., we're all going to start talking about how we feel, everyone will cut the TV off. Is there space provided for us? Are there people with open arms waiting to hold us when we are open about our vulnerability with, like you said, our health, our vulnerability with our feelings in general? Because, like I was saying about masculinity in general, like a lot of it is external, meaning also our worth is placed on our ability to fix things.
Sure.
Right. Is there space for our worth to also be tied to our vulnerability?
I would say the same way James Baldwin has always said that we aren't right at space. We have to take that space, So generally, do I think, is there space made for that? No, there is not. But we are a people that create space for the things that there is not space for. And we need to continue to do that. Just because there is not any space there does not mean that we do not have to attempt to inhabit that place. And that is a hard thing to say. And it sounds almost,
I was going to say, why haven't we? We've had a lot of time to know.
Well, I think one of the reasons why is because we are not seeing enough examples of people that look like us who are choosing to be vulnerable in the midst of a world that does not want us to be. For example, man, you can, a video, do you remember when there was the video of Black men frolicking?
Oh, yes. Frolic Friday.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And all it was Black men go, oh, so we frolicking? And going around, and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of people were watching this thing, obsessed with it, laughing and smiling because Black men were doing something that we weren't expecting them to do.
Yeah.
And it was frolicking in a field.
And we had, the interesting thing is we had access to the word frolicking.
Right.
We didn't come out and say, we're running in fields today. We presented it as Frolic Friday, meaning frolicking was a dream we held.
Right.
That we had not seen space for. It was a dream that we held and we had not seen space for, and we put it out there. And we answered, to your point, this is why I like where you went with it, by carving out more space for it.
100%.
I mean, they found fields. I was looking like, yo, now where did they find those dandelion? Where did they find that dandelion field to frolic in? I had been frolicking through streets of pavement.
And there was something about continually watching another Black man, somebody else, who's maybe
another shade,
light skin, dark skin,
fade.
You're watching all these things, man. You find yourself going, okay, we are creating space for this thing. And I think being vulnerable, especially as Black men, the more that we do it. But to be fair, I'm over here pouring my heart out and this changes everything and I take my carbon black, but we need to deal with the systemic racial issue and the fact that it's hard for Black men to be vulnerable, not just because there's space, but because vulnerability admits that there is a safe space to do so. And Black men are not familiar with or are normally in safe places.
Yeah.
So you have to decide whether I'm in a safe place or not. I'm going to create this space on my own. I'm going to lay out this vulnerable thing, whether it be about my health, whether it be about my romantic relationships and how it's difficult to be married or difficult to find a mate or sexual struggles that individuals have or hard to be a father or easy to be a father or what it's like to love your parents or not love your parents or to talk about how there's a stigma that Black boys just only go, yes, mom, yes, mom, yes, mom. There's a lot of Black men out there that have crabby relationships with their mothers that don't want to talk about it because that's a whole cultural crap show.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So,
and to talk about it almost feels like it is to position yourself against the only thing that we have, which is that they somehow get it right. You know, it's crazy. Again, just the weight that we put on them, but then also, like you said, to take up that space by ourselves takes a certain level of intention and reprogramming both yourself and the environment.
yeah.
Because you could be in danger frolicking. You really could. If you gather,
Bro, you ain't never lied, dog.
frolicking, there's a reason. I say this to my white friends. And my mom, because she's outside of the generation, there's a reason that right now we say stay dangerous.
Mm.
Like Nipsey said, it used to be stay safe, now it's stay dangerous.
Yeah.
And then because, who is then, killed,
Right.
for not staying dangerous, air quotes for listeners, not having, his gun on him because he thought he was in a safe space.
Sure.
You could be killed for frolicking.
Yes.
And so it takes a certain level of intention because we have seen, again, like, hell, for all intents and purposes, Nipsey was frolicking.
Yeah.
Man, he was frolicking. He was in the neighborhood. That's his
built
cultivated area and space.
He built a culture.
Why would I need a weapon here? Here is where I frolic. And I have given so much to this space. When he was murdered, me and my wife wept. Right. Because the other weird thing about that in general is we remember when you couldn't see stuff like that online.
Right.
So we saw him shake online. We saw this occur and we in real time existed until the time of death. And we wept because here again was a moment where a Black man did everything right and we killed him.
Mm.
Regardless of how you feel about, conspiracy theory, so we could do the same thing about there's two brothers that go in there and shoot him, and I think the FBI. But again, to my point about Jay-Z, I want to live in a world where they could never pay us to do that.
Right.
They have to show you have to pull up as a white man in Crenshaw and do this dirt yourself. There's no one here you can pay because he did everything right. He got everything there to where he was from. Like we said earlier, where he was from and should have been protected.
Right.
You would have had to come up there in the whole suit to get it done, is where I would like to think.
Which makes it make sense why we aren't just casually vulnerable. Makes more sense why we aren't casually anything. And,
we aren't
it's the truth though. And then we stick to,
we're not even casual. We wear our shoes. Like it is right.
Everything. There's no casual anything. And with that, man, we are continually fighting to be not only who we hope to be, who we dream to be, but we're taking a chance to do something like, you know, with This Changes Everything, the subtitle is a surprisingly funny book about race, cancer, faith, and other things that we don't talk about. And I added that subtitle after I was probably 3/4 of the way writing through the book, because I found myself going, God, I'm finding so much humor in all of this pain. But for me, I feel like that's my plight, my story as a Black man in America. And I need to be able to communicate this. I need to be vulnerable about it. I was talking to somebody recently about how we forget how much Martin Luther King smiled. He was a prankster. He was a joker. We had, you know, he had a persona. He purposely, because the media wanted to always stay serious and always to the point and always Jesus-y. But in reality, this was a gentleman who, as soon as he walked off the stage, was, you know, making fun of John Lewis, was slapping people up against the head and doing all these things. And that's what I feel like it means to be us in a place where we were never meant to be great in the United States.
Yeah.
We never were. That was never the plan. Was these Black people here one day will be great. And we have done every single thing that we can to continue to make space for greatness. Yeah. Whether there's space there for me or not, I'm going to continue to make it. And for me, it starts with proximity and vulnerability.
Word. Man, it's been a dope conversation.
Yo, man, you know we could go all day.
But days, bro. I appreciate you stopping by, man.
Yeah.